Which of these stories will you be talking about tomorrow? Now she's guilty of thinking state judges make law, when Antonin Scalia said the same thing. Now she's guilty of not being intellectually strong. This talking point captained by the man who declared the permanent Republican majority, who claimed only his math was right, who believed the clown college intel on Iraq, and who nominated Harriet Miers. Excuse me, Mr. Science. And it's not why, in the context of the Hispanic vote, are the Republicans opposing her. It's why, in the context of the Hispanic vote, are the Republicans slandering her. Serious question, is Rush Limbaugh going crazy? From this on January 16th.
I hope he fails.
To this on May 28th.
Ladies and gentlemen, this country is failing because President Obama is succeeding.
Tomorrow, will he say, "Gentlemen and ladymen, Obama, because country president this failing succeeding"? The enhanced interrogation technique that worked. The FBI interrogator who broke Abu Jandal by using sugar-free cookies. Jandal was a diabetic. He said, "Thanks. What do you need to know?" Jesse Ventura on that and the waterboarding of Sean Hannity. Worse, the blogger who wants Judge Sotomayor to anglicize the pronunciation of her last name now says it's not about diphthongs or effort. It's about angst over immigration and bilingual education. Thanks for letting your racism show. And tonight's WTF moment, the far right goes nuts over Obama's secret plan to close down almost nothing but Republican Chrysler dealerships. You did check to see what percentage of Chrysler dealerships that are staying open are Republican-owned, right? Right? You didn't? Oh. All that and more now on Countdown.
Good question.
Good evening from New York. Yesterday's attack on Judge Sonia Sotomayor as a reverse racist, having blown up in their faces when it was discovered that much of what she had to say on the subject of heritage influencing rulings matched, almost word for word, what conservative nominee Samuel Alito said at his Supreme Court confirmation hearings 3 years ago. Now, in our fifth story in the countdown, the Republicans have changed tack. Now Sotomayor is stupid, is a Democratic version of Harriet Miers, and believes state judges wind up making both law and policy. The law and policy stuff turns out to duplicate what Justice Antonin Scalia said. And as to her intelligence, the nation is now being lectured by fools like Karl Rove, who nominated Harriet Miers and who had previously solicited and swallowed fairy tales about WMD and 9/11 culpability in Iraq. Already having called her stupid, Mr. Rove now using gender-loaded terms like emotion to describe the judge's decisions and the judge herself, who would be only the third woman to serve on the Supreme Court. At the same time, Mr. Rove trying to claim that Judge Sotomayor would not be the court's first Hispanic justice, instead incorrectly saying that Benjamin Cardozo had that distinction, even though his ancestors were from Portugal. Others continuing to get their backsides handed to them as well by criticizing Judge Sotomayor for having said, as she did at a Duke Law School forum in 2005, the very same thing that the conservative justice on the Supreme Court already had.
Court of Appeals is where policy is made. And I know this is on tape, and I should never say that because we don't make law. I know. Okay, I know. I'm not promoting it, and I'm not advocating it. Okay. Having said that, the Court of Appeals is where, before the Supreme Court makes the final decision, the law is percolating. Its interpretation, its application.
Our founding fathers were fortune tellers. They were prophets. They were wise beyond measure. I'm very much like these people, my friends, in my ability to prognosticate and prophet the future. Thomas Jefferson warned 188 years ago that the federal government and the germ of its dissolution was in the way the federal judiciary was constituted. Ergo, 188 years later, he's right. We have Sonia Sotomayor, who thinks that the court is where policy is made.
Of course, 181 years later, in the majority opinion of the 2002 case, Republican Party of Minnesota v. White, Justice Scalia writing, quote, "The judges of inferior, that is, lower courts, often make law, since the precedent of the highest court does not cover every situation and not every case is reviewed. The fallacy that only Judge Sotomayor makes law or wants to, the focus of today's racist gem, courtesy John Derbyshire at the National Review Online. Quote, at SCOTUS, she'll make policy what need legislators, more jobs, more opportunity for twofer second-raters. A twofer being, in the vernacular, someone of two minority backgrounds that an employer can count as part of two different quotas. Forget all talk earlier this week from Senate Republicans having claimed they would need ample time to adequately scrutinize the judge's record. Pat Roberts of Kansas today becoming the first Republican to declare on right-wing radio that he will be voting against her, and he don't care who might consider him a racist because of it. Semper Fi.
Well, I'm a Marine, and nothing much scares me. And so basically, that's not going to be a consideration in my vote. I voted no in 1998. I did not feel that she was appropriate on the appeals court. Since that time, she has made statements on the role of the appeals court that I think is improper.
Time now to call in our own Howard Feynman, senior Washington correspondent for Newsweek magazine. Howard, good evening.
Hi, Keith.
Using this word emotion to describe the perceived shortcomings of a female judge, is that akin to perhaps describing whether an African or asking whether an African-American judge was articulate? Is this more code?
Well, it's code for desperation on the part of conservatives and indeed Republicans who are looking for some way to get traction as they try to oppose Judge Sotomayor. First of all, the White House was brilliant to roll this out during the recess. The Republicans aren't here. They can't sort of gather in their war councils. And while they're gone, people like Rush Limbaugh are in charge. And as vehement as Rush is, it just doesn't seem to be getting traction. And I know over at the White House, they're pretty confident. They're being very careful and methodical about answering every factual or emotional, talk about the side that's using emotion here, emotional charge. And I think they're doing a pretty good job of it. And when you talk to Republicans, they say, it hasn't come together for us yet at all, and that's why they're grasping.
Yeah, and to that point, in the midst of these latest attacks today came reports from other sources that no Republican actually believes the party is going to defeat or even seriously impede this confirmation. So what is actually being done here? Who is gaining from this, and how do they think they're gaining from it?
Well, as we said on Tuesday night, nobody I talked to then or now thinks absent some huge revelation that it's likely that this thing can be derailed. And she's gotten a lot of positive reviews. What the Republicans and conservatives are doing are talking to themselves and to their base. There are certain issues that she's expressed opinions on that they think they can excite their own base about, whether it's Second Amendment things related to gun control, whether it's this notion of activist judges, whether it's a question of affirmative action in that New Haven case involving the firefighters. Those issues are not yet and maybe never will resonate with the country as a whole. But to the core base of the Republican Party, and it's a shrinking one, those interest groups have an interest in fundraising out of them, expanding their base with them, getting them angry, upset, and paranoid. That's how one branch of American politics works, and the conservatives and Republicans are going to work that, even if it has nothing ultimately to do with whether they can stop Sotomayor, which I don't think they can do.
But let's assume for a second that there is some value to that, even just to firm up the base, which is easier to do the smaller it gets. But I mean,
Right.
It's not being done well. It's 2 days in a row that they've trotted out these titanic or pumped up to Titanic proportions events that have turned out to be, in both cases, duplicate statements, essentially, that were made first by Alito, and in today's case, made by the most conservative man on the bench in years, Antonin Scalia. Is Google not available to the GOP?
Well, they don't have an organized effort to do it. Rush is it. I mean, I've written that there's a shadow RNC. It's Rush, Newt, and Cheney. And there's no organized, I stress, no organized opposition yet, and I'm not sure there's going to be much in opposition to Judge Sotomayor. The White House is superbly organized. Their allies are superbly organized. They've got people inside the White House who have been through this for years. They rolled it out with great care and precision, and I don't see any kind of any organization yet developed on the other side. It's not like it was in the days when Bush was president, and the Democrats and their liberal allies really worked it hard, even though they lost. You don't see any of that down here, Keith, and I'm not sure we're going to.
George Bush had the Google. Howard Feynman of MSNBC and Newsweek, as always. Thank you, Howard.
Thank you, Keith.
The Annenberg survey estimating that President Bush won 41% of the Hispanic vote in his 2004 re-election compared to 35% in his election in 2000. Obviously a 6-point increase. The same party that brought you President Bush this week, not just opposing the first Hispanic nominee to the Supreme Court, but dismissing her as stupid, as emotional, as such a fan of ethnic food that might influence her votes. And possibly worst of all, is being on a par with Mr. Bush's failed Supreme Court nominee, his former White House counsel, Harriet Miers. Conservative blogger Ramesh Ponnuru calling Judge Sotomayor exactly that, those 3 words, Obama's Harriet Miers. Kurt Levy, executive director of the right-wing Committee for Justice, adding that, like Miers, Sotomayor was picked because she was a woman, and in this case Hispanic, not because of credentials. He wrote, this is someone who clearly was picked because she's a woman and Hispanic, not because she was the best qualified. Let's turn now to Washington Post White House reporter, author of The Fix, Chris Cillizza. Chris, good evening.
Good evening, Keith.
As I've suggested, if you're opposing this judge, go to town. But what is the political benefit, considering what a milestone this is viewed as for an entire swath of our population? What is the political value of calling her unqualified and questioning her intelligence and saying she's an EOE hire and talking about the food she eats? What is even if it's acceptable political strategy, what's the good part of the strategy?
I wish I had a better answer for you, Keith, and I don't have a great one. The truth of the matter is, as you said, there is nothing wrong with opposing Judge Sotomayor on the merits. And you can argue whether judicial activism is on the merits or not, but at least it's in sort of acceptable ground. Some of this other stuff, racist, it's really name-calling. It doesn't do, certainly the Republican Party, any good. And again, I think what it does is it shows, from a political perspective, that Barack Obama is a very savvy political strategist. He is, yet again, forcing the Republican Party to litigate the differences between the establishment part of their party and the conservative wing of their party, and it's all being done in public, and it's all being done without any rules or any leaders, and that's exactly what you do not want if you're trying to win back Congress or you're trying to win the White House in 2012.
Exactly. Limbaugh went on today and said, why worry about Hispanic voters because Republicans aren't going to get them anymore anyway? Is that not akin to saying, well, don't worry about future elections because we're not going to win any of them anymore anyway?
Keith, I understand Rush's point, but they can't write off the Hispanic vote. It's the largest minority group in this country. It continues to grow in terms of power in elections. Places like Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, even places you don't think about, a place like Iowa, for example, there are significant Hispanic communities in all of those places. If the Southwest is the next big battleground, and people seem to think it is, from Texas to New Mexico to Arizona, you can't simply say, well, we're going to lose Hispanics 90-10, because that essentially, if you combine African Americans and you combine Hispanics, that essentially gives you a recipe for failure almost every time in a national election.
Does it also do any good to have somebody like Karl Rove question her intellect when it turns out he does not know that Benjamin Cardozo, the great Supreme Court justice, was Portuguese and not Latino?
Well, this is the problem, and I was nodding my head when Howard was talking because I think he's exactly right. There is no organizing group, whether it was in the White House or anywhere else, to handle this. You have a bunch of people freelancing, Karl Rove, Newt Gingrich, any number of people sort of freelancing out there giving their opinions. Now, that's all well and good. The problem is, without an organized party movement on the behalf of the Republicans, those people are the people who are getting the attention, and those are not the faces, frankly, and we've talked about this, you and I, Keith, about Dick Cheney. Those are not the faces that Republicans want out there. They are not faces that appeal to an American public who is looking for something new from the Republican Party. So that leaderlessness really affects any number of things, including this confirmation fight.
And focusing in on the ethnic origins of the nominee misses the other part of this. 56% of women voted for Obama in the last election, and surely the treatment of this candidate in terms of her gender is not helping the Republicans close this other major issue that they have for them, which is the gender gap.
You know, Keith, talk to Republican strategists privately, and I do it, and what they say is, look, we need to add groups, not subtract groups. You know, the Washington Post poll, 21% of people in that poll self-identified as Republicans, the lowest number since 1983. Okay, so they need to be in the additive process, not the subtraction process. And again, it speaks to the problem when you have a leaderless party or a party that doesn't even have a few people who could claim to be leader, a leader fight. Voices come in and get attention that really do you more harm than good. And we've seen that play out in the first 5 months of this administration.
And voices that don't have access to internet search engines. Chris Cillizza of the Washington Post. As always, Chris, great thanks.
Thank you, Keith.
Turning explainable opposition into self-defeating character assassination makes no sense to you. You've obviously never listened to Rush Limbaugh. But today, even his listeners were probably left scratching their heads as he made some sort of labyrinthine U-turn. What was, I hope Obama fails, is now Obama is succeeding by making the country fail. First, his strange plea to this network to stop criticizing him. Now this bizarre bit of sophistry. A serious question tonight. Is Rush Limbaugh going crazy?
Fair, straightforward pricing. That's what TD Ameritrade stands for. Think about it. Why pay investing fees you shouldn't have to, or account fees that aren't clear, like inactivity fees or maintenance fees? It's not right, and you know it. And the thing is, the other investment firms know it, but they do it anyway, and that's just not fair or straightforward. TD Ameritrade. Independence is the spirit that drives America's most successful investors.
Performance now is all about logic. That some cars cost as much as $1,500 to maintain is one thing. That others cost even more is quite another. That a BMW costs you nothing to maintain defies all logic whatsoever, and in turn makes it the most logical choice of all. Performance now is the 3 Series. Through June 1st, get an automatic or X-Drive all-wheel drive system at no extra cost.
First he said he was hoping Obama would fail. Now he says Obama is failing. No, it's the country that's failing, which means Obama is succeeding, which means, I don't know what it means. Does anybody? Serious concern tonight for Rush Limbaugh's mental health. Jesse Ventura on waterboarding. Sean Hannity's name might be mentioned. And tonight's WTF moment, the evil plot to destroy Republican car dealerships. Turns out the conspiracy theorists overlooked one detail, one easy, obvious mathematical detail. You were watching Countdown on MSNBC.
Has progress taken us to a better place? I'd say it's taken us for a ride. Honestly, what thanks do we owe progress? We're up to our necks in landfill and down to the wire in resources, and climate change is out to get us. That's why progress plays no role inside post-shredded wheat. Here, we put the no in innovation. Post-original shredded wheat is still just the one simple, honest ingredient which naturally comes with vitamins, minerals, and fiber. All we did was make it spoon-sized. Did we go too far?
It's an idea that makes America strong. It's a fair day's pay for a hard day's work. It's health insurance when you're sick or injured. It's job security to provide for your family. It's the fabric of a sound economy. It built the middle class. And it's what the Employee Free Choice Act is all about. Letting workers choose to join a union to earn better pay and benefits. The Employee Free Choice Act. It's time the
Summer has always belonged to children. But now that the Summer of Audi event is here, summer can finally be yours. Experience the Summer of Audi with no payments at signing when you lease or finance select Audi models and get over 130 channels of Sirius satellite radio.
We're about to surprise someone with free Hungry Howie's pizza for a year. Pizza made with fresh dough, only the Hungry Howie's way. The excitement is mounting thinking of all that free, delicious pizza with 8 mouth-watering, flavorful crust that you can only get at Hungry Howie's.
You just won free pizza for a year! Wow! I love Hungry Howie's!
Well, we didn't expect that. But hey, it's Hungry Howie's. Screamingly delicious pizza.
FreeTripleScore.com.
A day in the life of the president. NBC News takes you inside the Obama White House. A two-part special starting Tuesday, 9/8 Central on NBC.
What happens when the inmates run the cameras?
I want to get my knife wet.
Lock Up. All new episodes every Saturday at 10 on MSNBC.
Ladies and gentlemen, today even Republican Party Chairman Rush Limbaugh, Mr. Bouncy Bouncy, had to admit it. President Obama is succeeding. But, and with Limbaugh there is always a but in our fourth story tonight, the leader of the GOP, and if I'm wrong about that, any Republican senator is welcome to come on the show and correct me. Today, the GOP leader explained that Obama is succeeding because the country is failing. And in fact, the country's failure was Obama's master plan all along. On his radio show today, Mr. Limbaugh explained that the economy is in a ditch, not because President Bush handed Obama the wheel a year after he drove it off the cliff, but because President Obama wants the economy in a ditch, because he wants the power of government spending, because he wants impoverished Americans relying on him, presumably because that's how Bill Clinton did so well and Jimmy Carter lost because the economy did too well. This dynamic, Limbaugh explained, political success arising from a failed economy, that is why President Obama wants America to fail, and that therefore is why Limbaugh wants to succeed in making Obama fail at succeeding in making America fail.
Virtually everybody who heard my comment, I hope Obama fails, knows exactly what I meant. There is not a sane person in this country who genuinely believes I want this country to fail. Ladies and gentlemen, this country is failing because President Obama is succeeding. I don't care how you choose to measure it. There is no hope on the horizon for a job. There is no hope on the horizon for renewed prosperity.
No hope on the horizon for a job. From Limbaugh's own website list of his own prep material for today's show, this headline, unemployment claims drop. If Rush Limbaugh is crazy, he's crazy like a fox, news anchor. Let's turn now to Arianna Huffington, co-founder, editor-in-chief of HuffingtonPost.com, author of the Huffington Post Complete Guide to Blogging. Thanks for your time tonight, Arianna.
Thank you, Keith.
I know you will say he always does not make sense to you, but is this not something different? I mean, what point do we go from contempt to concern for his mental well-being?
You know, I don't think that it's like the 5 stages of grief, that at one point he was reasonable and then he became contemptible and now he's foaming at the mouth. I think, in a sense, if you look at what he has been saying through the years, there's never been any logic to it because it's all about code words. It's about buzzwords. It's about appealing to the worst instincts in his audience. And that's really what is so sad and kind of dangerous because the country is still going to go through very, very tough years. We all know that. You know, unemployment is going up, foreclosures are going up, credit card defaults are going up. And the last thing this country needs is Rush Limbaugh every day making it sound as though this was Obama's master plan.
But what is that the extent of the point of him stoking this really bizarre idea that any president benefits by hurting the economy, that making your supporters poorer somehow helps you politically?
Well, it's purely looking for scapegoats. And unfortunately, when people are hurting, they are much more susceptible to finding scapegoats. And now, of course, his audience is sort of pretty restricted, substantial, but restricted to the people who still approved of George Bush. Remember, just before he left office, that's the Rush Limbaugh base. But as things continue to get worse for millions of people in this country, today the unemployment claims were the highest they've been, record unemployment claims, then the danger is that his audience may expand to people who otherwise would never be listening to him.
If Limbaugh's wrong, though, why hasn't Obama fixed the economy already, considering that FDR got it done faster than he managed to house train his dog, Fala?
Well, remember, after all, even FDR took a long weekend, right, Keith? It wasn't just a long lunch. But we can't be expected to try and understand Rush Limbaugh in normal, rational terms, because it's not about the head, it's about the gut. And if you carefully look at his words, it's words like Obama is raping the private sector. If you're a small businessman, you have a target on your back. These are very emotional words that appeal to some very dark fears and anxiety in people going through tough times.
So what's the end result of this, though? I mean, if the goal is to keep his listeners and his part of this party in some sort of alternative universe in which what he says makes sense and is the way to go, how does that part of the Republican Party still adhere to the other part of the Republican Party that has, serious conservatives who have political disagreements with the Democrats, but, don't talk in those code words about assassination and targeting? And where does this, at some point, do these two parties split?
Well, there is absolutely no way that the Republican Party can once again succeed in gaining majorities in the House and the Senate and gain back the White House if they adhere to the Rush Limbaugh wing of the party. Absolutely no way, period, the end. That's why you have people like Colin Powell, like David Frum, basically parting company with Rush Limbaugh, and you have Governor Huntsman leaving Utah and moving to China.
And as you said, it's not about the head, it's about the gut. Ariana Huffington of the Huffington Post, great thanks. Take care.
Thank you.
Maybe it's just me, but I think the quality of the personal trainers at this gym is just going to the dogs. And Coultergeist mistakes a comedy show for reality. We'll try to talk her down. I don't know if I'm good enough to do this. Ahead in Worst Persons.
Don't wait to lower your jumbo mortgage payment. Call Ditech today for some of the best rates in the country on adjustable and fixed-rate loans. Whatever your financing needs, Ditech can help bring your jumbo loan down to something more manageable. Take advantage of historic low rates, starting at 4 5/8%, 4.622% APR. Call Ditech at 1-800-80-DITECH or visit us at ditech.com.
It's the Nissan National Tent Event. Through June 1st, get the reliable Altima, just $199 per month. Hurry, event ends June 1st. Look closer. Nissan delivers.
I will seek somebody with a sharp and independent mind, someone who understands that justice isn't about some abstract legal theory. It is also about how our laws affect the daily realities of people's lives, whether they can make a living and care for their families, whether they feel safe in their homes. I will seek somebody who is dedicated to the rule of law, who shares my respect for constitutional values on which this nation was founded.
We now offer phone service for $1.70 a month with MagicJack. That's just $19.95 a year. $19.95 a year. We give you free local and long distance and your own phone number. Replace your phone company or add a second line with MagicJack.
Dreaming about owning your own spa? Well, stop dreaming. It's Sundance Spa's best offer ever. Payments as low as $94 a month, up to $3,000 off, and free spa maintenance for a year. Sundance Spas is celebrating its 30th anniversary with incredible savings. Get the Sundance Spa you've always dreamed of, with payments as low as $94 a month with no money down, up to $3,000 off, and free spa maintenance. Hurry, offer ends Sunday, May 31st. Call 888.
Whether you're into a good game or a good song, life is good at Handmaker. Assisted living at Handmaker means you can be as active as you want to be. For a tour, call 322-7035. That's 322-7035.
At Breakmasters, we found a better way to service customers. We take the time to give a customer a free brake check, and our people are not commission paid, so you know you're going to get an honest brake.
We give you an honest brake. Text MASTERS to 269411 to receive a coupon for a $69.95 brake special. Bring your cell phone with a text coupon to any Tucson Breakmasters location to take advantage of this special offer. Text MASTERS to 269411 now.
Hi, I'm Max Older with Fair Exchange Suzuki of Phoenix, introducing a new line of Suzukis, the Grand Vitara, the Forenza, the Ariel. 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. Power windows, locks from 35 miles to the gallon, plus 0% interest or $199 a month or $500 gas card. You owe it to yourself before you buy a Honda, a Nissan, or Toyota. Compare the price, the value of the new Suzukis. Remember, we have a grand selection of trucks, cars, and SUVs. For fun, for adventure, Suzuki! the way of life.
Own friends.
Everybody just went crazy and just started hitting her.
What happened in the dark?
It was like a bunch of flammable kids and someone with a match, and it just went off.
Bloodlust Under the Bridge. Premieres Sunday at 10 on MSNBC.
Best in a moment, and if you want to win the lottery, this would be the town in which to buy the ticket. First, this date in history, 30 years ago today, I graduated from college. Holy crap. That's me on the left. That's my friend Carol Hebb, the greatest natural broadcaster I ever met, in the middle. She's now Carol Feldbaum. Her friend Doug Sage on the right. I'm smiling because to the amazement of my parents, and particularly my professors, I was queuing up for the procession because I had graduated and graduated on time. Because about 3 minutes before this picture was taken, I had been slapped by a classmate who did not graduate on time, a disaster which gave me great pleasure at the time, but about which I felt bad later. Also, there was a lot of champagne, and our speaker was the university president, Dr. Frank Rhodes. He was an Englishman, he was a geologist, he was a world-class authority on fossils. But with the champagne and all, I kept murmuring to Carol, why is Ronald Coleman giving our graduation speech? Let's play oddball. 30 years ago. We begin in South Africa with a housebreaking and entering situation. Meet Jessica the hippo, who lives with her handler, Shirley, and is smart enough to unlock the door. Only trouble is when Jessica's indoors, she still acts like an animal. The hippopotamus has broken several of Shirley's beds. When asked, what do you give a hippo living in your house? Shirley replied, lots of room, to which Jessica called her a hypocrite. On the internet, this money-saving tip: can't afford one of those fancy personal trainers? Have Spot spot you. Instead of telling him to sit, have him help you squat. Here are man and man's best friend achieving an excellent lower body workout. Yes, in no time, you and your pooch can get rid of that paunch. Finally, in South Wales, Claire Allen was preparing the family breakfast, and after putting some yeast-based Marmite on the kids' toast, she noticed something on the underside of the lid. Jesus Christ on a jar! Yes, that star rising from the yeast was, in fact, the Messiah in Marmite. Ms. Allen says she's keeping the lid to remember the first time the Holy Ghost was spread on breakfast toast. Of those who fulfill their promise to be waterboarded and those who do not. Jesse Ventura next. And first they wanted to destroy us by putting fluoride in the water. Now the conspiracy is to unravel this nation by closing all the Republican-owned Chrysler dealerships. Tonight's WTF moment. These stories ahead to first time countdown. Top 3 best persons in the world. Number 3, best imitation of a Python sketch. Unnamed 52-year-old man in Tobyhanna, Pennsylvania tried to open the gate of a gated community while still inside his truck. Fell out, ran himself over. He's fine. His fall was reportedly broken by the heavy padding of the alcohol in his bloodstream. Number 2, best dereliction of duty, the unidentified hearse driver in the funeral of Tito Vasquez at Bogota, Colombia. Mourners at the Campo de Cristo Cemetery kept waiting and waiting for hours. The hearse and Mr. Vasquez were found a few hours later parked in the lot outside the El Imperio Motel in Bogota, which is where the driver had stopped for a few beers. And number 1, best obvious place to buy a lottery ticket. The Powerball ticket with 5, 6, 12, 16, 21, and the Powerball number 7, worth a tidy $232,100,000, was sold in South Central South Dakota. The winner was sold in the town of Winner, South Dakota. How the heck do you not see that coming?
Everyone's a winner, baby. That's so loud. That's no lie. You never fail.
It's MSNBC's all-new weeknight lineup.
How refreshing is that?
It all starts with The Ed Show at 6 Eastern, followed by Hardball with Chris Matthews, Countdown with Keith Olbermann, and The Rachel Maddow Show.
And there it all is in a nutshell.
Weeknights beginning at 6 Eastern on MSNBC, the place for politics.
Welcome to the Now Network, population 49 million. Right now, 1.5 million people are on a conference call. 750,000 wish they weren't. Construction workers are making 244,000 Nextel Direct Connect calls. 1 million people are responding to an email. 151 accidentally hit Reply All. That's happening now. America's most dependable 3G network, bringing you the first wireless 4G network. Sprint, the Now Network.
First we had the baking soda, then we put the vinegar.
Scientific explorations in the kitchen? Bring it.
It started bubbling,
New Bounty is thick and absorbent. It cleans the mess with less.
Then you know what, Teddy? It exploded! Yeah, it hit the ceiling!
In lab tests, Bounty absorbs twice as much as the bargain brand. And it's more durable.
It was really cool.
Why use more when you can use less? New Bounty, the thick, quicker picker-upper.
At Chrysler, we build Viewmasters. We build motion detectors. We build troop transports. We build moving vans. We build TV stations. We build the 25-mile-per-gallon Chrysler Town & Country. Come see what we're building for you.
I never thought it could happen to me. Heart attack at 53. I had felt fine. But turns out my cholesterol and other risk factors increased my chance of a heart attack. I should have done something. Now I trust my heart to Lipitor.
When diet and exercise are not enough, adding Lipitor may help. Unlike some other cholesterol-lowering medications, Lipitor is FDA approved to reduce the risk of heart attack, stroke, and certain kinds of heart surgeries in patients with several common risk factors or heart disease. Lipitor has been extensively studied with over 16 years of research. Lipitor is not for everyone, including people with liver problems and women who are nursing, pregnant, or may become pregnant. You need simple blood tests to check for liver problems. Tell your doctor if you are taking other medications or if you have any muscle pain or weakness. This may be a sign of a rare but serious side effect.
I was caught off guard, but maybe you could learn from my story.
Have a heart-to-heart with your doctor about your risk and about Lipitor.
Its seeming absurdity is matched only by its potential to reduce the torture debate into easily digestible morsels. Our third story in the countdown, the revelation that cookies trump waterboarding in getting terrorists to talk. And as this debate continues apace, former Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura joins us presently. You will recall that former FBI agent Ali Soufan recently told a Senate panel that al-Qaeda operative Abu Zubaydah offered up actionable intelligence while under standard interrogation, that once waterboarding and other harsh techniques began, Zubaydah stopped cooperating. Now Mr. Soufan tells Time magazine that the turning point in another interrogation must have been the cookies. Sugar-free cookies offered to Osama bin Laden's chief bodyguard, Abu Jandal, once Mr. Soufan realized that Jandal was diabetic. Quoting, "We had showed him respect and we had done this nice thing for him, so he started talking to us instead of giving us lectures." And bear in mind that Jandal was being interrogated in the week after the 9/11 attacks. Initially, Jandal had refused to even look interrogators in the eye. He railed against the evils of the West, but after the cookies, quote, he could no longer think of us as evil Americans, according to Soufan. Now he was thinking of us as human beings. After further interrogations, including some trickery, Jandal became completely cooperative, and not just what the pros call crumbs of information. Real information was coming from him. Cut to the silly and inaccurate claims about the effectiveness of torture by the likes of Sean Hannity. Governor Ventura has vowed that if he waterboarded Hannity, he could get the Fox News host to say that Barack Obama is the greatest president. Similar suggestion for the former vice president.
I've said it before. You give me a waterboard 1 hour in Dick Cheney and I'll have him confessing to the Sharon Tate murders.
Joining us now as promised, former Minnesota governor, former U.S. Navy SEAL, former MSNBC host Jesse Ventura, now author of Don't Start the Revolution Without Me. Thanks for some of your time tonight, Governor.
Hi, Keith. How are you doing tonight?
Not too bad. Thanks for coming on.
Sure.
The Time magazine article about bin Laden's bodyguard, it sounds crazy, but if we can get real intelligence using traditional interrogation, to say nothing of sugar-free cookies, should we be assuming that we used torture not to get real intelligence, but to get people to confess to things that weren't true?
Well, that certainly is a possibility, Keith, because there's no credibility to torture. If you torture someone, they are going to say whatever it is they need to say to stop the torture. That's why we don't allow it in a court of law. That's why the police can't use waterboarding techniques and things of that nature. It is brutal torture. I've been waterboarded, and I'm a former competitive swimmer. And I'll tell you what, Michael Phelps couldn't stand up to waterboarding because it gives you the sensation of drowning, and we as swimmers would be far more accustomed to it than the average person would.
Well, that dovetails exactly with the tape of this Chicago radio guy, Mancow, who said went into this knowing that being a swimmer and, in fact, having drowned as a kid and having been resuscitated, he knew what this was really like, and he knew this couldn't possibly be that. He lasted 6 seconds. He said, not only is it torture, not only is it drowning, it's death. It's being undersold. How does something like what he did impact this debate, such as it is?
Well, you know, it shows that we should not be a country that tortures. And the sad thing is, President Obama says now he's not going to prosecute anyone. Well, you know what that tells me, Keith? It tells me the Democrats are involved, too. They may have not ordered the torture, but they certainly knew it was going on. They did nothing to stop it. Whenever government says to you it's time to move on, you can rest assured the two parties are both involved, because both of these parties make their decisions to try to strengthen their parties. If there were no Democrats involved, you would see the Democrats prosecute the Republicans on this one.
The experience of watching somebody who was adamant that this was not torture get a quick conversion. How come Sean Hannity won't do it? I hesitate to call him your friend, but you've been on his show. Well, and how come he trashed you when you brought it up about him rather than address the topic to, you know, in some meaningful way?
Well, I don't know, because whenever there's no right in torture. Torture's against the law. We shouldn't condone it. We're a country, if we don't stand for the rule of law, you can't just stand for it when it's convenient, Keith. You have to stand for the rule of law all the time. They have nothing to stand on. So that's just, you know, that's just the creativity in entertainment of the news. Hannity says he could be waterboarded. There's no doubt in my mind Hannity wouldn't last 30 seconds. I can't last 30 seconds to waterboarding. And I'm certain I've been through BUDS, basic underwater demolition SEAL training. There's nothing more torturous than that. And if I can't stand it, how's he going to go through it?
Of course. But last question about Dick Cheney and the others who continue to attack Obama on his stance about using torture now. Setting aside for a second the question of prosecuting what went before.
Sure.
What is it that Cheney hopes to gain? What is it that those who agree with him hope to gain at this point?
Well, I think they're hoping that no one continues to prosecute them for what they did, for his lawyers all the way up to them. I did a lot of reading, and, you know, they had lawyers making decisions on what's torture and what's not, that it's not torture unless death is inevitable. Well, I got news for you. Waterboarding can cause death. If it's not done properly, you can easily kill somebody waterboarding them.
Yeah, the tracheotomy kit is not standing by during these interrogations for laughs. Jesse Ventura.
Well, when they did it to us at SEER School, Keith, they had a doctor standing by any time any serviceman was waterboarded.
Yeah, and somehow there's still a debate about this. Former governor of Minnesota, now the author of Don't Start the Revolution Without Me. Good luck with the book. Great thanks for your time, Jesse.
Thank you, Keith. Always a pleasure.
Of course, the Republicans can show you that the revolution already began. Obama has begun his desperate campaign to eliminate that bastion of GOP power. Chrysler dealers, your neighborhood Chrysler dealer. Tonight's WTF moment ahead. Plus, in Worsts, Dennis Miller helpfully explains this. This, what he's doing right here, this is his joke. Remember when he didn't have to telegraph his joke? And when Rachel joins you at the top of the hour, timing is everything. So a week after it was replaced by the Sotomayor nomination, the Republicans have now just launched an ad attacking Nancy Pelosi.
Performance now is all about logic. That some cars cost as much as $1,500 to maintain is one thing. That others cost even more is quite another. That a BMW costs you nothing to maintain defies all logic whatsoever, and in turn makes it the most logical choice of all. Performance now is the 3 Series. Visit your local BMW center today for a test drive.
Emily, fill in the blank. In this economy, it's everybody's business to what?
Okay. It's everybody's business to do even more with less. Less is the new more, right?
Of course.
Fair, straightforward pricing. That's what TD Ameritrade stands for. Think about it. Why pay investing fees you shouldn't have to, or account fees that aren't clear, like inactivity fees or maintenance fees? It's not right, and you know it. And the thing is, the other investment firms know it, but they do it anyway. And that's just not fair or straightforward. TD Ameritrade. Independence is the spirit that drives America's most successful investors.
This allergy season, get relief for nasal symptoms and your wallet with Astapro, a prescription antihistamine spray that goes right to the site of nasal allergy symptoms to relieve sneezing, itchy runny nose, and congestion. Go to astapro.com to learn about a valuable discount card.
If you're allergic to Astapro, Astelin, or Azolastine, don't use it. Also avoid alcohol, sedatives, operating machinery, and driving. Side effects may include unusual taste, nosebleeds, headache, fatigue, and sleepiness.
Ask your doctor about Astapro.
Which new product do women think is best? According to a study presented by Better Homes and Gardens, Definity Color Recapture. It corrects the look of wrinkles and discoloration. 50,000 voters, one brilliant winner.
The guy who said Judge Sotomayor should simplify the pronunciation of her last name now says it's not really about simplicity. It's about latent angst over immigration. Well, that helps. Culture guys can't tell the difference between reality and a joke, and viewers can't tell the difference between boredom and a Dennis Miller joke. The worst persons in the world next, then a plot. So devious, so treasonous that it may very well threaten the fabric of life itself. Well, it'll close all the Chrysler dealerships owned by Well, some of the Chrysler dealerships owned by, less than 25%. Well, it's still a conspiracy, damn it. Well, it's kind of a conspiracy. It's a mini. All right, it's not a conspiracy at all. Tonight's WTF moment is ahead.
Every year, the staggering cost of water main breaks affects more than just our wallets. Flooding and traffic jams, as well as water waste and contamination, affect every aspect of our lives. Now is the time to focus our resources on building a stronger and better infrastructure. JM Eagle Plastic Pipe offers an innovative long-term solution. Virtually leak-proof and invulnerable to corrosion, JM Eagle Pipe maintains its quality and performance over time. That's the power of plastic. That's JM Eagle, building essentials for a better tomorrow.
Slow down and grill with KC Masterpiece barbecue sauces and marinades.
It seems like prices just keep getting higher. But at Vonage, we've always charged only $24.99 a month for unlimited local and long-distance calling. So even though the cable and phone companies have been busy raising their rates year after year, we've been charging the same $24.99. And there's never been a better time to sign up because we're waiving all setup and equipment fees. So call 1-877-4VONAGE today and hear how good $24.99 can sound.
Did you know that evil militant Democrats are trying to destroy Republican car dealers? It's true. And when I say true, of course, I mean it's utter crap. It can be proven with an abacus, and it's tonight's WTF moment. That's next. First time Countdown's number 2 story, tonight's worst persons in the world, the Bronze Culturegeist. Her latest column has now appeared in leading newspapers like the Penny Saver. She notes, quote, the right to petition the government for redress of grievances is celebrated at political rallies, tea parties, marches, protests, and whenever Keith Olbermann has a fight with his cat. Anne, over here. I'm over here. Look at the shiny thing. Look at the shiny. Now, Annie, when you saw that man dressed up as me on the television, talking about his cat, that wasn't actually me. That was another man, a very nice man. He was playing pretend. And Annie, just focus for a second, dear. That was Saturday Night Live. It was a comedy sketch. It wasn't real. I don't actually have a cat. I know, dear, I know you want it to be real, but just because you hold your breath and you stomp your foot, that isn't going to make it real. I know, Annie, it hurts. I'm sorry. What's that? You want to go back to holding your breath until it's true and I really do have a cat? Well, okay, Annie, you hold your breath until I get a cat. Our runner-up, former comedian Dennis Miller, now in the entertainment relocation program that is Fixed News.
I want to preface my answer by saying that it's not nearly as textured and rich as it could be if I had led the life of a Latino woman. Sorry. It's my Sonia Sotomayor joke.
Thank God you explained that. For a moment, I thought you were just having trouble chewing celery. But our winner 2 nights in a row now, a Mark Krikorian, a blogger at the National Review Online. He says his point yesterday about Judge Sonia Sotomayor and how the rest of us shouldn't have to go to all the trouble of pronouncing her name correctly has been misinterpreted, so we'll quote his clarification. While in the past there may have been too much social pressure for what sociologists call Anglo-conformity, now there isn't enough. I think that's a concern that most Americans share at some level, which is the root of the angst over excessive immigration, bilingual education, official English, etc. Well, if you say so. You'd rather erase the idea that when it comes to pronouncing non-Anglo names, you're just lazy or snooty, and underscore instead the fact that, no, you're actually refusing to do so in protest over excessive immigration, bilingual education, official English, etc. Hey, it's your xenophobia and racism, buddy, not mine. Mark Krikorian, really, couldn't you just change it to K? K would cause less angst about immigration and hyphenated Americans such as yourself. Mark K, today's worst person in the world.
Think your family is protected from insects and the unseen germs they may carry? They're not. Protect them from invading insects with Bear Advanced Home Pest Plus Germ Killer. Its unique dual-action formula kills insects up to 12 months indoors. Plus, only Bear Advanced reduces 99.9% of the germs pests may leave behind, creating a protective barrier that keeps new bugs out. Make your home sweet for you, not them. Bear Advanced. Better science, better results.
History presents the television event of the summer.
This is wild Africa. Death is a possibility.
It doesn't take long for the harsh realities of Africa to set in.
You cannot survive a day or two without water.
Every disease known to man exists on this continent. Malaria reduces them to a sweating, vomiting piece of flesh.
You just feel like giving up.
Expedition Africa, history's new series. Check your local listings.
Millions of men 45 and older just don't feel like they used to. Are you one of them? Remember when you had more energy for 18 holes with your buddies? More passion for the one you love? More fun with your family and friends? Could be an easily treatable condition called low T.
Come on, stop living in the shadows. You've got a life to live.
So don't blame it on aging. Go to isitlowt.com to find out more.
We, the people, hereby secede from land and declare ourselves the nation of why not. From this moment on, we will be a nation adrift and set sail free to ask why not. Why not ice skate on the equator, climb mountains at sea? Or why not do nothing at all? Become a citizen of our nation, Royal Caribbean, the nation of...
Okay, so the Ford F-150 is the only truck with those new steps on the tailgate and the side of the box, making it easier to get to the cargo. And you're thinking, nah, I don't need those. Oh yeah? Let's do the math. How many times are you going to be in and out of the cargo box? Once? Twice? No. I'm thinking 50, maybe 60,000 times, especially since it's got the most payload. You see what I'm getting at? Hey, unless all you're carrying is yarn, it seems like a no-brainer to me, okay? It's not just a pickup truck. It's a Ford F-150.
If you're like me, you're looking for ways of getting what you want for less. Water Street Station can help. By filling up at Water Street Station, you can get the highest quality water you want at a great price. I recommend filling your own bottles with fresh, pure, oxygenated water for less than half the price of delivered or cased water. Right now, I have an offer for new customers. If you buy 25 gallons, I'll buy the second. Stop at one of our 3 locations, reduce, reuse, and refill with fresh, oxygenated, pure water at Water Street Station.
Score.com.
It's MSNBC's all-new weeknight lineup.
How refreshing is that?
Weeknights beginning at 6 on MSNBC, the place for politics.
Finally tonight, the scene is the White House Christmas party, and the movie is The American President. What this reminded me of, in reality, is not this bad, but it's close.
Mr. President, militant women are out to destroy college football in this country. That a fact? Yes, sir. Have you been following this situation down in Atlanta? No. These women want parity for girls' softball, volleyball, field hockey.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, Gil, the courts ruled on Title IX about 20 years ago.
Yes, sir, but what I'm saying now is that these women want that law enforced.
It's a world gone mad, Gil.
Well, tonight, according to the right-wing paranoia sphere, militant Democrats are out to destroy Republican car dealerships in this country. It's tonight's WTF moment. It's true. The Washington Examiner, which is like the Washington Times only with fewer Moonies, has breathlessly reported that, quote, evidence appears to be mounting that the Obama administration has systematically targeted for closing Chrysler dealers who contributed to Republicans. What started earlier this week as mainly a rumbling on the right side of the blogosphere has gathered some steam today with revelations that among the dealers being shut down are a GOP congressman and closing of competitors to a dealership chain partly owned by former Clinton White House Chief of Staff Mac McClarty. Ooh, this gets better and better. Obama's car czar, Stephen Ratner, is married to the former national finance chairwoman of the Democratic National Committee. And what's worse, he used to be a reporter for the New York Times as recently as 1982. 1982, the chip implanted in his brain to make him act all liberal and anti-American must still be running on its original battery. 1982. He worked for the New York Times when Reagan was president. Of course he's leading a Democratic plot to destroy Republican car dealers. Then there's the real victim here. Florida Representative Vern Buchanan learned from a House colleague that his Venice, Florida dealership is on the hit list. Buchanan also has a Nissan franchise paired with the Chrysler facility in Venice. It's an outrage. It's not about me. I'm going to be fine, said Buchanan, the dealership's majority owner. You're taking over 100,000 jobs. We're supposed to be in the business of creating jobs, not killing jobs. Before we get back to the vast right turn on red conspiracy to wreak revenge on the Republicans by closing their car dealerships, an important note about the GOP stance on this auto bailout that is keeping 3/4 of all Chrysler dealerships open. They all voted against it. Last December, before Obama became president, the Republicans from McCain to Bunning, from Bachmann to Cantor, preferred seeing the whole industry go under. All the jobs, not just the 100,000 Congressman Buchanan just mentioned, all the car dealerships, Republican, Democrat, Socialist, Communist, used. 31 Republican senators voted against the auto bailout, 150 Republican congressmen, including, in the height of chutzpah, considering how he's now alleging a political conspiracy to close his car dealership, Congressman Vern Buchanan of Florida. He voted against the auto bailout. If he'd had it his way, it wouldn't have been his Chrysler dealership being closed. It would have been everybody's Chrysler dealership being closed. All of them. Chowderhead. Well, this has been fun, this specter of Republicans who insisted we should let Detroit dry up and blow away, and with it all the parts manufacturers and all the repair shops and all the dealerships, Chrysler, Ford, GM, the people who told an entire industry and all its satellite industries to go to hell. Suddenly these hypocrites are getting all riled up because only about 1/4 of just the Chrysler dealerships are being closed. But this misses the basic issue. The basic issue raised here is this, concludes the Washington Examiner guy. How do we account for the fact millions of dollars were contributed to GOP candidates by Chrysler who are being closed by the government? But only one has been found so far that is being closed that contributed to the Obama campaign in 2008. Dun, 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 dun. Of course, actual journalists would try to answer that question before posting their rage-inducing, conspiracy theory-feeding, paranoia-producing twaddle in a semi-newspaper and not afterwards. Then again, journalism for these guys is sticking your byline on the top and then writing down what Mr. Bouncy Bouncy says.
Nobody can figure out exactly why certain dealerships are being targeted to be closed. There are some people looking into it, but the evidence is sketchy. All we know is that a whole lot of really successful dealerships are being shut down. Some of them happen to be owned by people who contributed lots of money to Republicans.
And oh yeah, about the really successful car dealerships that aren't being shut down, turns out some of them happen to be owned by people who contributed lots of money to Republicans too. Well, I'm not being honest when I say that. Nearly all of them, nearly all of the really successful Chrysler dealerships that aren't being shut down happen to be owned by people who contributed lots of money to Republicans, because nearly all car dealers who donate money to either party donate it to the Republicans. Who else but Nate Silver did the math here? He used Huffington Post's wonderful search engine Fundrace and pulled down auto dealer from the occupation menu. Results? Donations by auto dealers to the GOP total over 8.5 times more than donations by auto dealers to the Democrats. 8.6 to 1. Now, if you list yourself as a, quote, car dealer, it's a little closer. Maybe that includes used car dealers. I don't know. Donations to the GOP are only triple the donations to the Democrats there. The other variations that Nate found, automobile dealer, they give 10 times as much to Republicans as Democrats. automotive dealer, I'm guessing those are the ones who sell the Stanley Steamers and the Hupmobiles and fleets of Cadillacs, that's about a 16-1 Republican edge. Put them all together, as Nate did, and as he writes, 88% of the contributions from car dealers went to Republican candidates and just 12% to Democratic candidates. Another reality-based analyst using a different data source puts the number at 92%. The gist of this is inescapable. The reason it was nearly impossible to find a Chrysler dealership that gave to the Democrats and was just ordered closed is not that there aren't any that were ordered closed, it's that there aren't any, period. In their haste to scapegoat Obama for anything and everything, Limbaugh and his wimp followers neglected to look at the larger picture. This evil, Democrat, socialist, racist, bomb-throwing White Sox fan has secretly enacted a plan that makes sure that nearly 8 out of every 10 Chrysler dealers who donated to the Republicans are forced to keep their property, to stay in business, to stay open and continue to make money. The bastard. A conspiracy to eliminate Republican automobile dealers. WTF.